That is all that is important, and that is all that we need. Because you have the habit of changing things around, making things new. And I know you'll do it again this morning. Bless us as we would sit and listen to your word. For Jesus' sake we ask it. Amen and amen. You may take your seats, church. It's great to be in church, isn't it? There's no other place I would want to be at this time than in church, in the Father's house, knowing that the Father is here, knowing that He smiles when He sees us come, knowing that He has His hands outstretched, is willing to give us good gifts. He still is the giver of all good gifts. Great that you're here today. We're going to talk this morning about flourishing trees. Flourishing trees. Trees respond to seasons. Ecclesiastes 3 tells us that for everything there is a season. There's a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, a season for everything. We are now in a new season. The signs of the times calls for urgency. It's a season of fruit. In Psalms 1, verse number 3, we have the following. And you, note you, shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of waters, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Trees and us have some things in common. We're made of the same stuff, molecules. You know, stuff you can't see, like atoms and particles and electrons. We are here because of trees. Did you know that there are over 20,000 different types of trees? There are trees that are as tall as 30-story buildings. There are trees that live literally for thousands of years. They give us much. They give us the nuts we eat and the fruit and the chocolate and the coffee and the spices. They give us the wood for our furniture and paper, etc. Trees do many important things, and one of them is convert the stale air that we breathe out. We take out the carbon dioxide and it is the tree that converts it into oxygen so that we could have fresh air again. Jesus was regarded as a good tree. In Isaiah 11:10, we are told that he was the root of Jesse. In Jeremiah 23:5, we are told that he was a branch of David. In John 15, Jesus said that he is the true vine and we are the branches. The purpose of a branch is to bear fruit. In John 15:16, Jesus said, I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit shall remain. I chose you and appointed you. So we are chosen to be fruit bearers. Fruit means winning of souls. Fruit also can mean engaging in good works. having the fruit of the Spirit like love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control, according to Galatians 5:22. So we see that fruit-bearing should be part of our lives, every one of our lives, if we are believers. The start of a good tree, well, it starts with the seed, isn't it? Now, you note that the seed has to die before it can sprout up into a new tree. When we come to be believers as new trees, we need to have some dying also. We need to deny ourselves. We need to empty ourselves. We need to die. And then we need to be born again. Okay? Being born again means getting rid of the old and adopting the new. And that is where our life starts as believers. So many become believers and claim to be believers without having gone through this very important process. The process of emptying oneself of all of the old and accepting all of the new. You'll find that the tree relies on two most important things, the sun and the rain. And as believers, we too need both of them. We need the sun. In this case, it's S-O-N. And the Bible is clear in saying, "He that hath the sun hath life." So if you want life, then you need to have Jesus. You need to have the sun. And then we need to have the former rain and the latter rain. And that rain talks about the Holy Spirit. And there needs to be this drenching. And without the drenching, well, we'll all be dried up, isn't it? The drenching is likened to us being positioned near the river where there is the daily supply. Firstly, we need to stand tall. We need to be deep-rooted. We need to be full of faith. Nothing can separate us, according to Romans 8:35. Nothing can separate you from the love of God. You see, God's got this love for you. You are magnetized. You're fixed with Him. And nothing can separate you. Be it tribulation, be it distress, be it persecution, be it peril, be it principalities, demonic activities. In fact, we should allow nothing to shift us or to shake us. We're supposed to be steadfast, unmovable. We're supposed to be always abounding in the ways of the Lord. But in reality, this rarely happens. We get so moved, we get so shifted, we get so shaken when we see little tests and trials that come our way. And so many sit down and wallow in self-pity. They moan, they complain, they grumble, they blame God for everything. But the Bible is saying that these things will come our way. Tribulations will come, distress will come. There will be persecutions and perils. And all of them are designed to make us better people. Not bitter people, but better people. And we're supposed to get closer to God when we have these tests come our way. We're supposed to be like those that are planted near the waters. And there should be a song that should be constantly on our lips. And the song should be this one: I shall not be moved. Come persecution, I won't be moved. Come test, I won't be moved. Come trial, I won't be moved. Come frustration, I won't be moved. Come misery, I won't be moved. I shall be like a tree that's planted by the waters. I shall not be moved. And if we have that as our mindset, then I think we will be firm in the things of God. But unfortunately, lots of us become like the withered tree. You ever seen a withered tree? It's more dead than alive. A withered tree has lost its purpose. A withered tree can't fulfill its dream. A withered tree is on its way out. A withered tree lacks much. It lacks the energy. It lacks the resources. It lacks the sustenance to keep it going. It's drained out and it's dying. And so many believers are like a withered tree. They're there but barely alive. They're there but barely surviving. They're there but scraping the bottom of the pot. They're there but you can hardly notice them because they're on the way out. They all seem withered. God is not wanting us to be like a withered tree. God is wanting us to be like a flourishing tree. Forever we must have this in our minds that we are flourishing trees. We must be flourishing trees. Flourishing trees are thriving trees. Thriving trees are prosperous trees. And that is what God destined us to be. Prosperous, thriving, flourishing trees, not withered trees. We will note that as we look at our landscape, we also see thorny trees. There's many thorny trees, and what's conspicuous about a thorny tree is really the thorns. Those big thorns that stick out with a few leaves. And it is not a tree you want to go nearby, and it's not a tree you should go nearby because of the thorns, and you'll get poked. And sometimes Christians are like thorny trees. You get near them, you only get hurt. When you get near them, you feel the pain, there's bleeding, there's discomfort. And so many believers are like thorny trees. Their ambition in life is to bring hits. And they never have a good word. They're constantly ridiculing and bringing down and belittling and complaining and saying stuff like that. So God today doesn't want you to be like a withered tree. He doesn't want you to be like a thorny tree. He does want you to be a flourishing tree. And we need to constantly say ourselves, I want to be a flourishing tree. I am a flourishing tree. I'll remain a flourishing tree. I won't move from my objective. I am and constantly be a flourishing tree. Then we have the stunted tree. We have the withered tree. We have the thorny tree. We have the stunted tree. The stunted tree is supposed to have been big, but it remains small. It's supposed to have been a giant, but it's a dwarf. And how many people out there and perhaps right here are like a stunted tree, never really grown. 10 years down the line, you'll see them in exactly the same place, doing the same things and wanting a change. If you do the same thing over and over again, you'll have the same result. You'll never get anything new. And so we find people that become stunted and remain stunted for many reasons. We have among us what we call a bonsai tree. You can have a tree that's 100 years old, and you can carry it inside your house on a saucer. In other words, a big, massive tree has been stunted over the years, has been doctored, and has been deliberately interfered with so that it could remain small. And a tree that's supposed to be big, a tree that's supposed to be fruitful, a tree that's supposed to be leafy, is now a little miniature inside your house. And it's classic, and many people buy bonsai trees. It's an extremely expensive exercise, but they see that tree and it's an intrigue for them. And why is that big tree so small? It is simply because people have learned the art of interfering with its growth structure. They deliberately cut off certain portions of the root and other branches so that the tree doesn't grow any bigger. It'll age, of course, but it won't grow big. It'll remain the same. And so we find among us there is this deliberate snipping or cutting, interfering. And so many become victims. They become victims of abuse and they become victims because they become controlled. And there are various things that control people. Sometimes it is people that control people. And there may be some that are bullies. Some want to have the upper hand in your life. Some want you to remain low, remain down. And so they deliberately victimize you and keep you in that position. And you feel uncontrollable, you may feel uncomfortable, but seemingly not much can be done. And you go through the motions. Some are controlled by substances, and some are controlled by circumstances. And we find sometimes we allow little substances, little drugs, little things that fit into the palm of our hands to control us. So little things control big people, and big people become small people. They may look big on the outside, but they're small on the inside because they controlled, because they stunted. They never grow because they've not given an opportunity to become big. Now, these are the stunted trees. These are the stunted people. And God is wanting us to know that destined for us is the flourishing tree, the big tree, the fruitful tree, the thriving tree, the prosperous tree, the leafy tree, with lots and lots and lots of fruit. And that's what God is wanting every one of us to be prosperous in the good things. Not being controlled, not being pushed down, not being kept down, not become victims to ourselves and to drugs and to society and circumstances, not being kept down and tramped down and pushed down, but to rise from where we are. And one of the things we need to do if we're in that condition is a few simple things. Make a few simple statements like, enough is enough. I've had enough. I don't want it anymore. If someone is in an abused state and is constantly being abused, that person has a right to stand up wherever they are and say, I think it's over now. I think I've done and dusted. I don't want to go through this relationship anymore. I want to get up of where I am. I want to get out of it. And you can and you should stand up and use your voice. God's given you a voice and you should use your voice and say, I don't want to stay down anymore. I don't want to stay abused anymore. I don't want to stay addicted anymore. I don't want to stay stunted anymore. I want to rise. I want to grow up. And I think what we need to do is learn to grow up. Many look big, but they're never really grown up. And God is wanting us to grow up today and always. So we are told that we shouldn't be stunted trees. We shouldn't be thorny trees. We shouldn't be withered trees. Neither should we be barren trees. Barren trees look so much like normal. They have big, strong, sturdy branches. They're full of leaves. They look so promising. But they're barren. There's going to be no tree after that tree. Did you know that? Because the tree hasn't produced anything to make other trees. because the seed is in the fruit. So if there is no fruit, there's going to be no other seed. There's going to be no future generation. So it's all going to end with that particular tree. Now we know that Jesus one day walked past a fig tree. And then he stopped, and the disciples were watching him carefully. He went near the tree and he looked all around and he felt the branches. And he came out not having any fruit because the tree didn't have any fruit. And Jesus softly said a few words. He cursed the tree. He said, "Be cursed. You got no fruit. Be cursed." And they all walked on. No one said anything. No one thought anything. They all walked on. But on the return journey, the disciples looked at that spot where the tree was. The tree was still there, but it was withered because it was cursed. In other words, what Jesus was trying to point out in this particular story was this: if you don't have fruit, then you're really good for nothing. You're wasting space. You're taking up all the energy and the resources that could be utilized for others. You're gulping it all up, and you're not bearing fruit. God is wanting us to be like a flourishing tree. He wants us to be persons that will bear fruit. A flourishing tree is a tree that is positioned right. A flourishing tree benefits from all the resources available. A flourishing tree is a fruitful tree. There's always abundance. The purpose of the fruit is to benefit others. You'll know that if you can just try and picture a fruit tree with its big branches and fruit hanging from all of those branches, it attracts the insects, it attracts the birds. All of them come and have a share. They have a field day, isn't it? The farmer will look at that tree and he will know that it will benefit him as he plucks those fruits and sell it to the marketplace. So we have the fruit going to the marketplace, and from the marketplace people buying, and eventually those seeds from those fruit will fall on various places, and they will sprout up, and they will become big trees, and they will flower, and they will become fruitful. So we find that fruit is about touching lives. Fruit is about benefiting. And if you find that tree with those bunches and bunches of fruit, it never benefits itself, it benefits others. And I'm thinking today that God is wanting us to be that flourishing tree that would become a benefit. Firstly, we find that when we are the flourishing tree, we will run to the Father, and we will understand that the Father will give us good gifts. For He is the giver of all good gifts, being full of peace and joy and happiness. We look for ways of sharing. Every believer, every flourishing tree, every fruitful tree will understand that there is a purpose for us being just that. Jesus asked Peter a question. In fact, he asked him 3 times. He says, "Peter, do you love me?" And a little while later, Jesus posed the question again. He says, "Peter, do you love me?" And the 3rd time he asked him again, "Peter, do you love me?" For the first answer, when Peter said, "Yes, I do, Lord," he said, "Feed the lamb," and then he said, "Feed the sheep." So God is saying us today that our purpose in life is to feed the lamb, feed the sheep. that is around us. That is our purpose. We are called to be feeders. We are called to feed people with hope. We are called to feed people with encouragement. We are called to engage in ministries of help. We can help with food and clothing and other things if possible. You see, we are called to assist. When we look around us, this place is full of sad people, lonely people, dejected people, suicidal people, sorrowful people, looking miserable people. We find people all over. When you just take one look, you'll see there is hurting all over the place. And God has chosen you and brought you to this particular place where you are so that you can blossom and you can bloom. You need to blossom and bloom where you are. Sometimes we are forever complaining about our territory. We are complaining about that space where we are. We are complaining about the behavior. We are complaining about the crime level. We are complaining about lots of things about the people themselves. And that seems to consume all of our time. But God is telling us today that we called to blossom and bloom where we are. That is our job, to blossom and bloom and be fruitful. The story is told of a guy who had actually reached the end of his road as far as he was concerned. He had lots of issues, too numerous to mention. He was holding his head that was throbbing, and he said, well, today is the day. I'm going to end it all. And in that mood, he walked through the forest looking for some place, a suitable place where he can end his life. He was dead set on committing suicide. He had a whole lot of tablets that he was going to take, but he wanted to kill himself someplace where nobody will find him, because he didn't want his body, didn't want a song being made over his death. So as he walked, he saw this big concrete pipe that was protruding out of the ground. He sat there and he says, well, this is the ideal spot. I think this is where I need to go in and kill myself. So this is a true story. So what he does is that he starts getting into that pipe. He could barely fit in. He was crawling. And as he started crawling through that pipe, you know, he couldn't, there was this unbearable stench of dead rats and other insects, and suddenly he found that it was getting darker and darker and darker as he went deeper into the pipe, and he kept saying to himself, I need to go a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, so that nobody will see me, no one will find me, no one will know that I died here. I need to go a little bit more. And he continued along that journey, and the tunnel was dark. That old pipe was dark. And finally, as he continued, he suddenly saw some light. And he understood that there was a crack in the pipe. And as a result of the crack in the pipe, there was some light that was coming through from above. And as he stood there and adjusted his gaze and he looked, he saw a rose tree. And in that on the rose tree, he found a lovely rose petal. He saw this and he was shocked. He was totally shocked. He said, in the midst of all of the smell, in the midst of all of this dirt and rubble and everything else, there is this beautiful rose. And if that rose can survive in the midst of that kind of a situation, why couldn't I? And why shouldn't I? And he slowly got out of there because he was touched by a rose. He was influenced by the power of a rose that can grow in the midst of all kind of death around him. And he got out and he says, I'm now going to live. I'm going to live and I'm going to change what is around me. I'm not just going to accept it. I'm called to change what is around me. And as you stand in your little territory, God is asking you to bloom. God is asking you to stand out. God is asking you to be different. God is asking you to be above average. God is asking you to be somebody that will be noticed. You can be somebody that people will come to for counsel, for help, for prayer, for guidance. You can be that somebody people can find as a resource center. You can be that somebody that people can come to and find the help that they need. You can be that. Or you can sit and you can complain. You can pinpoint things. You can become frustrated with everything. God is saying, become that flourishing tree. There is something about a flourishing tree. When you see a flourishing tree that is full of fruit, it attracts. It attracts people. It attracts insects and birds. And there's a lovely song. As birds start singing and building their nest, they all want to be where there is this flourishing tree. And I tell you this much, you can become that flourishing tree, and people can come and they can find that hope in you. The fruit itself has to be the right kind of fruit. You know, gone are the days of sweetness, you know. We talk about the whole days where they didn't use so much of fertilizers and stuff like that. And when fruit were sun-ripe, not artificially like today. Today they take a whole lot of green bananas, they put it in little holes and they smoke it and gets ripe. The taste is not the same. And how often you see the fruit in the marketplace and he says, the oranges look lovely. I think I'm going to have a nice fruit today. Or maybe other fruit that you like. And then you buy a whole bag full. You're excited about the fruit. And he said, I'll take a bag full. I'll have a few today and I'll keep it and I'll share with the family. And you go home and you taste the first fruit. It's not to your expectation. The taste is not there. It leaves a sourish, funny feeling in your mouth. And maybe you're not able to go halfway through that fruit. You ever found that? We find that all the time. So you are the fruit. What kind of a fruit are you? Are you the fruit that people would want to come and cling to? It's all about attitudes. It's all about our behavior. It's all about how we mingle with people. And God is wanting us today to know that He has something powerful in store for all of us. He's wanting us to be flourishing trees. Now, I read from verse number 3. Let me read verse number 1 and 2 of Psalms 1. And this is what it says. Blessed is the man, it means the women also, who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And when anybody does that, they shall be like a tree that's planted by the rivers of waters. God is saying today that we need to get to that fountain that will ensure that we never thirst again. You remember that midday story? It was midday and Jesus sent his disciples away to go and buy food. And there he sat at the well. And along comes a Samaritan woman. She chose that hour because her life wasn't correct. She chose that hour because she knew no one else would come in the heat of the day, midday. And she thought that she will have the freedom of taking her water and going home without any inquisitive talk and inquisitive looks, because his lifestyle was not correct. And Jesus sits there and he draws attention and he builds up a conversation. And in his conversation he says this. He says, I am able to give you water that will make sure you will never thirst again. And the lady turned around and said, are you greater than our father Abraham? And then she suddenly knew that there was this man that was in front of her was really the Messiah indeed, the great prophet of God, God himself. And then he revealed things to her, about her, that made her leave and bring others to the well, and also made her leave all of the funny things that she was engaging in. What I'm telling you here today is plants thirst, trees thirst, and we are the living trees of God, and we thirst. And if we are able to drink of the living waters, we shall thirst no more. We shall be quenched from the inside out. And something will start happening inside of us that will be shown on the outside. And the lady went and she became the greatest soul winner in a town. A lady that people looked at and spat at. A lady that people pointed fingers at and made her feel low. Why? Because she had many husbands. She went through some 5 husbands, and the man that she was sleeping with at that particular time wasn't her husband. So she wasn't a lady of the good time. But when Jesus came, something happened to her. When Jesus came, she found that there was this thirst for him, and this thirst for God was so overcoming and so overpowering that she wanted more and more, and she refused to let God go. I'm hoping today that you will thirst for that water, that you will thirst for that living water that will change you and shift you into new positions, that you too will be able to say, can I have more and more and more of him? You see, we can be many things. It's all in our choosing. Today, we can go out and say, I didn't know I was like a tree. I didn't know like I was like a flourishing tree. I didn't know I was meant to be a thriving tree. I didn't know I was meant to be a prosperous tree. I didn't know that I can have the leaves and the branches and the shoot and the root, that I needed to have the fruit also. But you know now that the most important part of the tree is the fruit. And fruit is something that is there to give away. You don't keep to yourself. And I'm hoping that when we go out of here, we'll become more sensitive to those around us. And one of the questions we must constantly ask is, who can I touch today? Who can I influence today? Who can I counsel today? Who can I pray for today? Who can I bring joy to today? And as you ask yourself the question, and as you look around, you'll find there was a multitude of people that were only waiting for you to turn your gaze to them. I'm hoping we will do that. But sadly, in church, we've become wonderful, self-righteous people. Wonderful people. But we become so self-righteous people. We feel that we need to keep to ourselves. We feel that we favored and loved and God-picked and hand-picked and all of those lovely words we use for ourselves. And we think that we are an elitist group. But God is saying something more today, and He's been saying it all of the time. I've chosen you. I've selected you. I've pinpointed you and brought you. And I've given you this knowledge that you might touch my people. It's not about you and me anymore. It's about touching people. Imagine yourself, let's say you're a lychee tree. I like lychees, by the way. Let's say you're a lychee tree and you've got bunches and bunches of luscious, big red lychees full. And then the lychees grow and grow till it reaches a mature state, and then it rots, and then it falls. Sad, lovely lychees falling rotten. Talking about lychees, I'll tell you what I did once. Right there at home, we had a big lychee tree. It was growing from the way it bought all the way up upstairs. And right there by my balcony, there was this big, massive lychee tree, and there was a season where it was so full. There was so much of lychees, and I looked at that and I cut a few branches, and I saw my neighbor at the bottom, right way behind, way at the bottom, and I signaled to him. I said, "Do you want some lychees?" You know, he shook his head. He says, "Yes, of course." And I took as much as I could carry, a whole lot, and I took it out and gave it to him. And I'll tell you, you must see the joy in his face. All of the lychees for nothing. I feel so honored, I got the lychees. It's sad that the lychee tree has now dried up and it's gone, and we can no more bless people. But what I'm saying is, you are the fruit tree. According to God's word, you shall be like a tree that's planted by the waters. You are the fruit tree. If a tree is full of fruit and is kept to itself, it benefits nobody. But it only becomes a benefit when it is in the giving. And as the fruit is distributed, then people enjoy, then people comment, then people are happy, then people have a share. You're the tree today. You can remain a barren tree. You can remain selfish. You can keep to yourself. And you can say, well, what's mine is mine, I'll just keep it. That's fine if you want to do that. But what a joy it is if you become that flourishing tree and share what you have. You can today be the thorny tree. You can today be the stunted tree. You can today be the withered tree. You can today be the barren tree. Or today you can turn around and say, God, I want to be the flourishing tree. God's given a special promise for those that are the flourishing tree. Very special promise. And this is what the promise is. You shall be like a tree that's planted by the rivers of waters, that bringeth forth its fruit in its season. And whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. So prosperity comes when you become the flourishing tree, when you become the sharing tree, when you become the giving tree, when you become the helping tree, when you become the considering tree, when you become the compassionate tree. That is when prosperity comes. When you see others prosper, suddenly you start prospering. And as you start giving out, God will give you more to give out. You see, God is looking for somebody that will give out. And if you can position yourself as that person that's willing to give out, then you will. You know, I recall not too long ago when we started our Helping Hand ministry at the care center, and we had many that came forward and gave donations to help us buy various grocery items to hand out. We were linked to one particular group, and they had something like 50,000 loaves of bread to give away, Albany bread. They became aware of our organization. They became aware of our enthusiasm and our eagerness to help. And we kept going there and bringing in van loads upon van loads upon van loads of bread. We were given something like over 1,300 loaves of bread. They gave it to us because they understood we never kept it for ourselves. And as they gave, our vehicles were going all over, just distributing. And they were willing to give more and more because they knew that we had the correct heart. So God is looking at us and God is saying, if you're the flourishing tree, and if you're the tree that's willing to empty yourself so that you can be full, empty yourself so that you can be full, then He'll constantly keep filling you so you can keep touching other people's lives. And how nice to do it today with God's resources. You don't have to dig deep. It's nothing about taking your own resources. It's just about positioning yourself and saying, God, use me. And God will use you to touch lives forever. Today, I'm hoping that you won't remain stunted. I'm hoping that you won't remain withered. I'm hoping that you won't remain barren. I'm hoping that you will grow up. That you become the giant that God intends you to be. That you'll become the flourishing tree. That you'll be the fruitful tree. That there will be hanging all over you stuff. Today, if I asked you to think of somebody in your particular area, I'm sure you'll be able to remember. I remember somebody that's very near my home. I remember there's someone that uses bad languages all of the time, shouts on top of her voice, is a big-time fighter. She stands out because she's taken control of that environment. God is saying today, He's called us and He's sent us. He's sending us to change our environment. He's sending us to change our space. He's sending us to influence our little territory. And we can become the kingdom in that particular area when we rise and shine and become fruitful. Shall we all stand to our feet this morning? Father, we understand that you've chosen us, you've selected us, and you want us to become that branch that bears much fruit. Not a little fruit, not one or two fruit, that bears much fruit, multiple fruits. Fruits that will be hanging from the branches of God. And right now, as I raise my hand, oh God, and I make some declarations, I ask, oh God, for you to take notice upon every one of us that are here today. We don't want to stay stunted. We don't want to stay withered. We don't want to be like the thorny tree or the barren tree. We want to be like the thriving tree. We want to be noticed. We want to grow up. We want to become big. We want to become unshakable. We want to become unmovable. We want to be that tree that's full of nourishing fruit. I pray that you will declare this upon us today, Lord, and bless us with that kind of blessing, a fruitful blessing, oh God, that as we walk out of here, people may see something different in us. May we start learning to smile. May we learn to stop and talk. May we learn to help, and may we learn to do things that we've never done before. Forever we've been to ourselves, oh God, but let us now be led by you to those that are in need of help. Father, I pray for your sweet blessings that be upon us as we take leave, knowing that you are there who can help us in everything. Bless us now. For Jesus' sake we ask it. And now may the threefold blessings of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit remain with us always for Jesus' sake. Amen and amen. God bless you, church.